Let's cross over into Tanzania and speak to one journalist. His name is Taji Luindi. Taji is a former radio presenter, former radio manager, a master of ceremonies of big events and state functions, entrepreneur, bongo flavor pioneer. He joins us on the line. Good morning, Taji.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Listening to you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for availing yourself. Thank you. Karibu.
Asante sana, asante.
So, Taji, you've heard the conversation that we're having, and this is about, the freedoms that we take for granted in this country that are not actually also being enjoyed by people in the media fraternity, in civil society in Tanzania, to the kind of extent that we enjoy them here. We were speaking with a director of the Media Council of Kenya, which is the collaborative, self-governing body of the media in the country. And,
Yes,
and it comes out clearly that, if we look at the kind of freedoms that the media enjoys in TZ, you'll need to have some push so that you can have that more openness. If we look at just giving us a view from where you stand, how is the media treated in Tanzania, especially by the state and state organs?
Well, I think that in the past 5 or 6 years, a lot of people will say that the media has been stifled. It has been controlled. It hasn't really truly had a voice. There are no investigative stories anymore, or writings anymore. So the space, the open expression, open and freedom space for the media, I believe every Tanzanian listening or analyzing the situation will actually say, yes, the media in Tanzania has been stifled. But listening to the conversation that you had, it's interesting to note that the conversation is going on in Tanzania. It's not that it's not going on. It just depends on which side of the wall you're standing. What happens with politics in Tanzania is you will read that the late president has polarized the country. And so one end of the polar gets to speak a lot, gets to express itself a lot. He's managed to go back to the times that I can remember of the 70s and 80s, and when we use the word propaganda. And that's been used very well. That is a form of communication. And as I hear later that you will be talking to Fatma Karume, she's on the other side of the wall, responding to the propaganda from the other end, which is pretty much the government itself, but also organs that have developed with an affiliation to the government, or simply Tanzanians who feel, wait, we don't want anybody saying anything against the government at all. Take a look at all the grand projects. Take a look at how far we've progressed. Take a look at the vision that we're trying to attain. And so there's a lot of noise, we might call it communication, from one end of the wall, and it's also being very much opposed from the other side of the wall that takes a look at other things rather than the grandiose scheme of the government as it was progressing before the demise of the late president. So I believe on Twitter, on social media, sometimes in the regular press, you will see these conversations playing themselves out, and in particular on social media.
Yeah.
We are having a conversation. We're not a country that's been shut up or shut down completely. So if it's not on social media, it's definitely
it is happening
going
on social media, and social media is quite big in Tanzania as well in terms of how it's handled. I mean, how people actively engage with each other on social media.
Well, I think what has happened is, right, we're still looking at the perception being that the traditional way of doing things still then resides in Tanzania. I think a beautiful opportunity is being presented here, where there are many conversations that are taking place via new media, and there are many things that Tanzanians in different pockets now are saying that this is what they need, this is what they require to see happening in government. as concerns their lives, as it concerns the economy, and actually want to be playing a participatory role then in how this governance is played out. And I see what needs to happen now is that there needs to be a streamlining of these opinions. There needs to be a streamlining of these conversations. There needs to be a coming together of these conversations because they're happening in different pockets around the country. It needs to be that this is clear that it's coming from the voice of the people, and this is what the voice of the people is saying, and this is what we need to happen. Once you have such robust conversations taking place in succession, it only seems to me that the end result is inevitable, that somebody's going to sit up and take notice. Somebody's going to listen.
Yeah, there's a lot that would happen. I mean, we can now bring in Taji and ask him that question.
So, I mean, Taji, from what we are saying now, yes, these conversations are taking place. People are having, whether in different pockets, amongst the corporate sector, amongst other social groupings, people are talking about what they need. What is it? We've talked previously about legacy here and saying that Magufuli has left a legacy and there's certain things that he's put in place. But what do people of Tanzania think that is? How moving forward do the people of Tanzania want to go? In which direction do they really want to go? What are these conversations that are taking place and what are they showing is the direction that Tanzanians want to go?
It's a broad question. Can you hear me well now? It's a broad question. I don't think anybody in Tanzania will stand up and say, we don't like where we're going. We don't like what we see. But these pockets that you're talking about are, for example, the private sector. With the austerity measures that the government is undertaking, it's freezing the private sector, taxes, very stringent measures being taken. Initially, it was closure, and it wasn't the regulatory processes were very. The processes were not friendly to business for both foreign and also local business. But we got to sit down together through, again, an organization like the Tanzania CEO Roundtable, which had good access with the former president, but has tried to make inroads with the late president, with formal meetings. The Tanzania Private Sector Foundation as well has been has been very instrumental for private business in Tanzania. And you could actually see the government responding by bettering processes, loosening regulation, but ensuring great oversight. I'm aware that the main area of contention has been with civil society. Civil society has attempted in the past 5 years to engage with government at different levels to organize major annual meetings, inviting government to listen. I've attended some of these, and that's why I'm able to talk about them. I can actually see that as we were approaching year 5, there was greater government involvement, greater dialogue happening, and a greater understanding was beginning to develop. And government actually saying at the very last meeting, basically this year, or at the end of last year, that they do understand, and a dialogue needs to happen as to what government, in a sense, fears, and what the civil society can actually do in a space that was actually almost closed completely.
Yeah.
They were truly the government really took stringent measures against civil society, made sure that the money they were receiving from abroad, the funding they were receiving from abroad, it was accounted for. It was asking what was it for. They needed reports. They were digging deep, very, very deep into the activities of the civil society. And I think it was trying to create a check and balance, but the process towards it was not very friendly.
Not very clear.
I think they were getting to a point where things were beginning to brighten up a little bit.
Taji, let me ask you, with the new administration of Samia Suluhu that is due to now come in, do you expect radical changes in terms of how the government thinks and how the government operates and how the government then looks at this push and clamor for more openness?
I think most people don't see her as a stateswoman. The VP position in Tanzania has mostly been ceremonial. She'll be launching a factory somewhere, visiting certain organizations, and that's been going on since for a very, very long time. So we've never really had a VP assume the presidency. It's always been a running mate sort of position. But I've seen her in action in the past 5 years, and if she survived 5 years with a very strict president, I think she's been groomed well enough. She is very articulate. Many of the great meetings that I've attended with, when she was present, she was able to understand the issues very well. She has society at heart. She has civil society at heart as well. She has at heart also the private sector. I think we will not see a radical change because we were going through a radical change. I think we will see a progression, and that's what I can clearly see her and officials in the government saying. Look, we need calmness, and we need to get straight back to parity.
Okay.
To work, and I think she's a certain. I think today, later in the day, we can listen to her speech and also gauge whether she has the mettle to continue where, unfortunately, the late was throttling away.
Where Magufuli was. What are the people's expectations of Samia Suluhu? Do they expect the general population? Do they expect her to continue being as strong as Magufuli, or do you feel like they want to be something a bit different, like previous presidents who have been more diplomatic in how they approach things?
I think you've just said it. For one thing, they want her to be a unifying factor. But secondly, I think a lot of people will now lobby for a more diplomatic approach. They want more responsiveness and maybe greater engagement with all the things that we're talking about. We want all sectors of society to be able to contribute ideas, contribute innovation. They want to be listened to. And I think a lot of people were misconstruing Magufuli, or he was just putting up a stance where it was kind of hard to get to him directly.
We saw, already, and I guess they say a picture tells 1,000 words, Taji. And we saw pictures yesterday, of her and those who surrounded her already donning masks. And the whole COVID situation, the whole COVID conversation is one that cannot be ignored, especially, unfortunately, with the demise of Magufuli. Does that picture state something in your view of what could be coming forward, especially when it deals with the COVID situation?
The vice president about to become president is very much aware about COVID. I have done maybe 2 or 3 events with her this year, and we have observed social distance. At a table where normally 7 would sit, all the way up to 9 would sit, the security detail would cut it down to 3, wow, with a lot of space between her. And we'd have sanitization from the security personnel themselves. They'd sanitize her where she's sitting, the microphone she would come in to use. They are very, very aware of COVID. She would probably sometimes don on a mask, sometimes not. But with the picture that you've seen, it is definitely a great awareness of the inherent danger that there is for COVID-19. The government knows that this actually exists. The president himself, in the past month or 2, he also acknowledged the presence of it. And we can't say that Tanzania denied it completely, and eventually with the new variant, the president came out and said, yes, we do have a problem with it, take greater care. But he placed his faith in God.
I've got to ask the kind of politics that's now, running behind the scenes in Tanzania. We have heard a lot of speculation here and there. And there's tug of wars within the CCM party. There's talk of the selection of the next vice president and who that person is going to be, and whether the main power barons within the CCM are going to insist on the person who becomes vice president. What are you hearing there?
I'm just reading on social media about what's going on, and I probably have my own ideas, my own opinions. But there's one thing that I'd like to let you know. The politics in Tanzania are totally unpredictable. You may think one way, but then the outcome will be totally different because I believe CCM, since we mentioned it, as a machinery, it has strengthened itself immensely and now has the capacity or even knew in advance what the situation will be. They're already meeting, I believe, today, if not over the weekend. I think they will already have something in place and a statement that will come out, a very strong statement that will come out. The one thing that CCM will want to show immediately is great strength and unity. And create confidence in the people that they will have, they will continue, they will not shake, there will be no factions, and they will, and it's from them, by the way, they will select the right candidates for the vice presidential post. And remember, we're talking about both Tanzania mainland and Zanzibar, and how the constitution stipulates that if the president is of a person from Zanzibar, then the VP has to be a person from mainland Tanzania. And so, I would say the strongest candidate would actually be the Prime Minister of the United Republic of Tanzania. I would like to see that, because then that would be a continuation of a clique, if I may call it that, was already working very well together.
Okay. Thank you very much, Taji. Taji Luindi is a former radio presenter, manager, MC of events, entrepreneur, a bongo flavor pioneer, journalist in Tanzania. Asante sana for sharing your insights with us this morning, and we wish you all the very best.
Asante sana, much appreciated.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Taji.
you.